want to note that the packaging quality is very nice. When you're unboxing this, you feel like you're opening a new phone or something like that. And the main component is this rear view mirror looking thing that is the monitor for the cameras, the processor, and also the front 4K camera is integrated in that unit as well. Next, I want to talk about the wiring that's included with the kit. It has this cigarette lighter adapter that's going to power the unit. I went with a different option, the hardwire kit. Anyways, I'll talk about that in a minute. Here's your rear 2.5K camera and its associated wiring, a GPS antenna if you want that, some microfibers, and they even include an interior removal tool along with a comprehensive user manual. Here is the hardwire kit I was talking about before. This allows you to wire up your Wolfbox G900 to operate after you shut the vehicle off while parked, or to just help you clean up the wiring so that you don't have a wire going from your rear view mirror down to your cigarette lighter, which is basically what I'm using it for. I can't afford any draw coming off my battery since I camp in remote places, so I'm gonna wire it up so that it only works in accessory mode and when the vehicle is powered on, but I'm gonna talk about how to wire it to monitor your vehicle while parked as well. I know a lot of people are afraid of wiring, so I'm gonna make this as simple as possible so that anybody could do it. In order to find a fuse to tap, go ahead and remove that panel by the dashboard to access your interior fuses. Then remove your dead pedal by prying up on it very gently and carefully. You also have a rubber stop that's holding this side kick panel in. Go ahead and unscrew that with your hands. Then after popping this panel right here out of the floor with just a normal interior removal tool, pull straight back and out on that kick panel to remove it. Now I'm just searching around for a ground point and I think I found one that I'm gonna show you right here. So why do you need a ground point? Well, that hardwire kit I was talking about before, you need to ground it out somewhere. So I'm just showing you how I'm routing that ground wire in. And I noticed that the kit doesn't really allow enough leeway between the ground and the two fuse taps. So I had to rip back this sheathing a little bit on the little harness in order to make it so I could reach the ground point there and reach up into the fuse box up on the dashboard. And go ahead and just get yourself, I believe it's a 10mm socket, undo that bolt a little bit, slip that ground wire on there, and then just bolt it back in over the ground. Now your wires should be able to reach from the ground all the way up to your preferred fuse. The hardwire kit comes with two fuse taps. One is yellow and it's labeled B+ for battery positive. The other is red and is labeled ACC for accessory power. This chart shows you the results of each connection method. For instance, the first connection method shows that accessory power is given to the red wire, ground is given to the black wire, and constant power is given to the yellow wire. It shows that it's normal recording while driving. But while parked, the dash cam kit stays powered on. They call it parking guard video. I don't want it to stay powered on while I'm parked because I camp in remote places and I don't want to risk having any battery draw on my starter battery that would leave me stranded. Your priorities may be different. You may park in a bad neighborhood and you want to make sure that you monitor the vehicle at all times, which is totally understandable. If you want to do that, just wire it according to this chart. In order to make it so that my dash cam only powers on when I'm in accessory mode or when the vehicle's powered on, I'm gonna go with this wiring connection method. And I'm gonna tell you right now, it is the simplest one to set up. First, get yourself some of these fuse taps. I'm gonna link these in the description. Then choose your accessory power fuse. I'm going with number 23, which is the cigarette lighter. You can see the components and ratings of each fuse on the back of this fuse panel. Now I'm gonna show you how plug and play this modification really is. Just take your yellow and your red out of fuse circuits from the hardwire kit and plug it into each input in the fuse tap. Now that both the yellow and the red wires are plugged into the same source, all we need to do, just like I showed you on the chart, is put both of them in an accessory power socket. So the yellow and red wire are essentially conjoined. Now just plug that end of the fuse tap into number 23, which only powers on when in accessory mode. Now let's test and see if this wiring works. It's going to tell you to format the SD card, which you can do in settings. Now I'm going to take off this camera cover, and just a note, this camera swivels any direction so you can fine tune where your dash cam is pointing up front. Another great thing about this is if the monitor fails for some reason, it just becomes a normal rear view mirror. There's no safety issue there. Now that we've confirmed that the unit works, I'm going to reroute the wiring from straight into the fuse box to underneath the dash and into the fuse box. Now it's time to start routing the wiring up through the A-pillar over to the rear view mirror area. So I'm just making sure I have enough length. Then I am starting by routing it underneath this piece next to the dashboard. And I'm doing that basically by hand, peeling back that felt coated sort of rubber feeling thing, and just use that interior tool to kind of help you stuff the wire behind there like this. And you're gonna continue doing that until you get to about a third of the way up the A-pillar. Now it's time to remove the interior A-pillar trim. Start by popping off those little covers on the O-crap handle and get yourself a 10mm socket to remove the bolts that go in there. Once the handle is out, start working your way along the edges with the interior removal tool that Wolfbox provides, and start stuffing the wire in. An important note, you will see your side curtain airbag in here. You want to route the wire so that it won't interfere with the operation of the airbag. This may seem obvious, but I definitely want to make that note in here. Route the wire behind everything that would deploy in case of an accident. Then start routing the wire underneath the headliner to make its way towards the rear view mirror area. As you can see, I have everything routed now, and the end of the USB-C wire is hanging near the stock rear view mirror. After that, I just put the G900 monitor over the stock rear view mirror and then plug it in. Now I'm just buttoning everything up from the install, and we should be all done with powering the front camera. And one day I'll find a cleaner way to route that wire to the switch panel, but that day is not today. So as you can see, we have a clean wiring install from the fuse panel up through the A-pillar over to the G900 unit. Let's see if it'll power on. As you can see, the camera has a super wide angle view, so it can capture footage that's way beyond what the monitor can show for you. And as I said before, that front camera swivels, so you can set it up just how you like. Now I'm just putting the finishing touches on the front camera install. Now let's get started on the rear view camera install. Here is the 2.5K rear camera, and it is wired up with the rest of this bundle, but you could disconnect that for now. We're just gonna route the wiring to start out. And a quick bit of feedback for Wolfbox, I was not able to plug in the rear camera jack with how I routed the USB-C cable from the front camera install. I had to switch it around 180, which kind of defeats the purpose of USB-C being bi-directional. Not really a big issue at all, but thought I'd point it out. So on the other side, you're doing basically the same thing, except for you don't have that dead pedal to deal with. So again, take out that side panel there out of the floor, just pop it out, and then you can unscrew the rubber stopper there by hand, pull the kick panel straight back and then out. The wiring on this side will also route exactly the same way, up through that strip, across the A-pillar behind the airbag, and then tuck it up under the headliner to the monitor. So we have that part of the wiring installed into the monitor cleanly, up through the headliner, down the A-pillar, and along the side of the dashboard, and you wouldn't know a thing unless you looked at the kick panel, which we're going to reinstall once everything is wired up correctly. Now let's go ahead and keep routing the wiring back to the tailgate. And again, here's the point of feedback I was discussing before. You could see I had to turn the USB-C plug 180 in order to fit the rear camera wire. So let's start routing our rear camera wiring. Start by putting the wire behind those two clips that hold in the front kick panel there. Then continue by putting the kick panel back in place, and then route the wire through that floorboard there. And when you're done, just snap that floor panel back into place. Now we're behind the front seats, and the first step is to go ahead and remove this step pad. And to do that, you just pop off these plastic covers and remove the 10mm bolt. There are 2 of them in here. Once you have that removed, now it's time to pop off that rear floor panel, and then you're going to continue routing the wire under the B-pillar cover and then back through that floor panel behind the front seats. Then just reinstall that rear floor panel by popping it back into place and putting that step pad back into place as well, reinstalling the 10mm bolts front and back, along with those snap-in covers. Route your wiring to the tailgate where it joins to the rest of the body, because you'll see this grommet right here, and we're basically going to route the wire underneath the weather strip here, just like I did for my other reverse camera, and I haven't had any issues with dust or water intrusion with this at all, so it seems like it's a really good way of doing it. And once it's through there, we're gonna start disassembling the inner door. Do this very carefully and pull straight back on these clips so you don't break them. Use the interior tool that Wolfbox provided as well, and that can be super helpful here. I'm also taking out the toolbox and this screw that's right near the net. So then you're just gonna pop this rear piece out straight towards you, 1 clip at a time, just to make sure you don't break anything. Now that the rear plastic is out of the way, we can route the wire through the grommet into the inside of the rear tailgate there. Start by peeling back the plastic a little bit and then stuff the wire through the side of the grommet just like this, and then make sure you reseat the grommet as best as you can to prevent dust intrusion as well as water intrusion. Once you're done, you should have the wire through in addition to that red convenience wire. That's your trigger wire, in order to let the Wolfbox unit know that you want to look out of the back camera only, so that will automatically take up the whole screen when you put your vehicle in reverse. And the way it knows that is that it gets a 12-volt signal from your reverse lamp. Now you can see I already have attached one at the back here for my other backup camera in my head unit. I'm going to show you how to do that very simply. There is nothing to be afraid of here. Anybody can do this. Start by stripping back a little bit of the wire, maybe an inch or just under, and then just fold that wire back on itself just to make the wire a bit thicker. Then just insert that end into this connector here, and it's basically like putting it into a metal tube that you're going to squish down onto the wire. And that's called crimping. It's not a big deal at all. So go ahead and put it inside of that little metal tube and then crimp down on it. One side of your connector is ready. The other side of the connector looks like this. It basically clamps down onto the wire that you'll receive power from. So I'm going to, just like an alligator clip, I'm going to clamp down onto this reverse light wire so that it contacts the metal contactors inside of this clip. The trigger wire connector that we crimped just a moment ago then just plugs into the back of that, and then we have a full electrical connection without having to solder anything. Now it's time to route the wiring up the side of the window where it will be underneath the trim, and then we're going to mount the rear camera. Wolfbox includes a little rear camera mounting bracket that's pretty self-explanatory. You might just need a tiny little screwdriver to screw the side screws in, and then you can put on the double-sided tape and stick it right on the rear window. When you're done with that and routing the wiring, then you can go ahead and put those interior panels back on by just snapping all the clips back into the door. And there is one screw behind the net where that upper buckle cover is. Then just put the toolbox back in and you're done. Let's test it out and see if everything works. And this is before I realized that you could point the camera down using that swivel on the front, so I'm struggling to understand why it's pointed so high. All I have to do is push that swivel down on the front of the camera. And here you can see when I put it in reverse and those reverse lights come on, it automatically triggers the monitor to switch to the full screen backup camera. And here I'm just experimenting with the unit. There's a whole bunch of adjustments that you can do. Then I'm checking over all the wiring and trying to figure out my ideal settings. I also saw that you have an emergency record setting that you can access right at the lower menu there. So I'm just starting and stopping one real quick, and I think that hard saves to the SD card no matter what. If you go into the display mode settings, you could make it so that you can monitor the front and rear of the vehicle at the same time, which I've been using and loving. I ended up moving the reverse or the rear view to the left side just to make it so I don't have to move my eyes away from the road as much, but that's really the only change I've made since filming this. Overall, I think this is such a great modification and I'm so excited to keep exploring it. If you're somebody who doesn't want to install a full head unit into your vehicle, but you do want the benefits of being able to see around the vehicle like as if you did have a head unit with a backup camera and a front camera and all that good stuff, this is a great option. Not to mention the myriad benefits of being able to record your drive for insurance purposes like I discussed in the beginning of the video. So guys, let me know what you think of the Wolfbox G900. I'm gonna link everything in the description. Please go ahead and check them out and we'll